You probably heard this many times. Google Analytics is an event-based platform. You can track events, and you can also track event parameters. But what are event parameters really? How can you send them, and how can you see them in the reports? In this video, I will explain all of that. Google Analytics is a platform based on events. You're sending event data, and then based on that information, Google Analytics processes the data and displays the list of events, traffic sources, and so on. But to properly benefit from Google Analytics, you need to understand one more concept, which is event parameters. So when you implement Google Analytics, you can track various events. For example, you can send a purchase, form submission, file download, and other event names. But just sending the event names is not enough, because you would also like to know how much money did you get from that particular purchase, what kind of form was submitted, what kind of file was downloaded. And that's where event parameters become very useful, because they give you additional context and there are additional data points about those events. For example, with the purchase, you could also send additional parameters such as transaction ID, value, currency, and others. When it comes to form submissions, you could send form ID, form name, and so on. So this applies to various events. If you want to know more about that particular event, if you want to have more context, then you need to send event parameters. And depending on your setup of Google Analytics 4 and the way how you send those events to Google Analytics 4 depends on how GA4 is installed. For example, if you are using Google Tag Manager, then event parameters could be managed either in the configuration tag or in the GA4 event tag. So in the event tag, you can manage event parameters in this section. So for example, it could be, let's say, the purchase event. And then here you can add additional parameters such as transaction ID. Here you can send value, currency, and so on. And here you should insert variables that will dynamically insert the values. For example, the actual transaction ID of that particular purchase. When it comes to configuration tag, here you can set those parameters in the fields to set section. For example, when this configuration tag will fire, it will send a page view. So together with that page view, you might want to send a thing like page category. If you are using Google Tag, then the setup would look like this, where you're using a gtag command. You tell that you're sending an event, you insert the event name, and then you define event parameters. For example, the event name would be screen view, and here are several parameters, app name and screen name. Some parameters are tracked automatically by Google Analytics 4, while you can also send some custom parameters too. Let's take a look at some examples. So here I have activated my Google Analytics 4 configuration tag. And if I go to admin in Google Analytics 4 and debug view, here I will see the stream of events. And if I click on page view, which is an automatically tracked event, here I will see some parameters. So I haven't configured any additional event parameters in my configuration tag. So all of these parameters are tracked automatically. Campaign is a parameter, GA session number is parameter, page title is parameter, and so on. And you can expand them and see what kind of data was sent. Just for testing purposes, I can go to the configuration tag and let's say that I will also send a parameter called page category. And normally I would insert a Google Tag Manager variable here that will dynamically pick the category and insert it. But here I will just enter a static value for demonstration purposes. So let's say that this is the home page or something like that. I click save. Then I refresh the preview mode of Google Tag Manager. It will fetch the latest container version. The tag will fire again, and now I can go back to the debug view and see what is happening here. And here's that page view. I can click it, and I can see that among a bunch of standard parameters, I also have the page category, which is homepage. So in this case, I sent an additional parameter. So when you start sending data and parameters to Google Analytics, you can go to the events report. And for example, if you click on the page view, here you can see the events and their parameters tracked from the last 30 minutes. For example, if I go to page category, I will see that there was one event that had a homepage value. But the challenge with this right now is that if I wanted to see the data of page category beyond 30 minutes, so it means maybe I want to see the data from the last 7 days, it will not be simple for you to do that. Because when the parameter is sent, it is stored somewhere in Google Analytics. But if you want to use it in reports, that parameter must be a dimension. So Google Analytics has a bunch of predefined dimensions that recognize certain parameters, but for custom parameters, you would need to register them as custom dimensions. Also, some standard parameters don't have the default dimensions yet, but I hope that in the future, Google Analytics will introduce that. So speaking of the page category, if I went, for example, to the Explore section to use that parameter, which is page category, and if I collect blank and try to find that in the dimensions section, if I entered page category, I would not find anything. If I entered just category, I would find something, but none of these are related to page category. This is because page category is a custom parameter. It's not mentioned anywhere in the documentation of Google Analytics. So if you want to start using that in your reports, you would then need to go to Google Analytics, go to admin, then custom definitions, and in the custom dimensions section, create a custom dimension. So in this case, I would enter page category. I would leave the scope as event, and then I would enter page category here, and I would save it. So from that moment, Google Analytics will do additional tasks when it comes to event parameter. It will not only store it somewhere in the database, but it will also make it available for you in the interface. Just keep in mind that custom dimensions apply only from the moment when they are created. So you will not be able to see the page category data before you created the dimension. So from this moment, after you save this dimension, you would need to wait for 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, and then you would be able to use that in your reports. So to sum up, these are event parameters. And basically when you're sending an event, you're sending additional data to give you more context. Also in the debug view, these are parameters. But if you want to use those parameters in the interface, they must be dimensions. So for example, link URL is a standard parameter. It is automatically recognized by Google. So there is a dimension with a very similar name. It will return the data coming from this parameter. But if you're sending something that is not mentioned in the documentation, then you would need to register them as custom dimensions. And after a short while, you would be able to start using that dimension in your reports. Just keep in mind that in a single property of free Google Analytics, you can create up to 50 custom dimensions. So basically, after you watch this video, I would recommend watching another tutorial of mine about custom dimensions. So after completing these two videos, I would say that you will have a pretty good understanding of parameters and dimensions. Also, keep in mind that if the parameter is treated as a number, then you would need to register it as a custom metric. So basically, you need to understand the difference between the parameters, dimensions, and metrics in Google Analytics 4. And now you know what event parameters in Google Analytics 4 are. If you found this video useful, hit the thumbs up button below the video. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or GA4, then consider subscribing to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.